Today I'm going against one of my all-time favorite quotes by Theodore Roosevelt, and that is, "Comparison is the thief of joy." Because we have a tendency to focus on those that are better off than us, comparing yourself to others often doesn't make you feel all warm and fuzzy. But in this case, I think comparing your 401k balance to the average person in your age group could have one of two positive possible outcomes. Number one is that you are doing better than the average person, and it's a confidence boost, which, by the way, if that is the case, you should use that as a sign to keep doing what you're doing and not let your foot off the gas. Number two is that you realize that you are behind for retirement savings, and this is the sign that you needed to take some action to catch up to where you need to be. If it is number two, just remember that 401k plans fit into everyone's financial plan a little bit differently. For example, if you live in rural America and your cost of living is very low, maybe you don't need what the average person has in their 401k plan compared to someone who plans to retire in New York City or Chicago. Hey everyone, if we haven't met yet, my name is Jake Skellhorn. I'm a certified financial planner. I own Spark Wealth Advisors with my partner Chris, where we help people retire with confidence and clarity. So the data we'll be looking at today is from Empower, which is one of the largest 401k providers in the nation. They provide the age groups by decade, so it's 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. And they also provide the average 401k balance at Empower, as well as the median. So let's just go back to grade school for a minute and define each of those terms so we know which one's more appropriate. For the average, you're simply taking everyone's balance, adding it up, and dividing it by the number of people in that age group. The problem with averages, as you can see in this very small data set that we're using here, is that outliers like the $800,000 balance can bring up the average balance significantly. So it's not the best indicator of what the typical 401k balance might be in your group. So the average for this data set would be $270,600, whereas the median is lining all those up from greatest to least and picking the one right in the middle, which you can see in this case is probably a better indicator of the typical 401k balance in each age group. So in my opinion, and I think most will agree, that median is the better number to look at when comparing your own balance to others. And as we go through each age group, just to reinforce the power of compounding interest, I'm going to show you what you could potentially have starting with that median balance if you were to save up until full retirement age or 67. Assuming that you earn $75,000 per year, put 10% into your 401k plan each year, and you earn an average rate of return of 8%. Obviously, that 8% rate of return is not guaranteed, but historically, over the long run, that's about what the stock market has returned. So starting with those in their 20s, the average balance of 401k plans at Empower, again, this is only at Empower, is $80,275. The median balance is $31,722. If you're in your 20s, this is arguably the most important time to start contributing to your 401k because you have the most time on your side, again, going back to compounding interest. So you definitely want to make sure that you are contributing up to at least the company match, which we're not going to even factor into our example here in a minute. But after that, you want to make sure you have any high interest debt paid down, building your emergency savings so you don't have to dip into your 401k or take any loans out of it. So just to take a look at what you could have by age 67, again, contributing $7,500 per year at an 8% rate of return, you'd have close to $3.7 million by full retirement age. So moving into your 30s, the average balance for someone in their 30s is $173,793. The median balance is $74,581. As you can see here, the gap is starting to widen, mainly due to those in their 30s who are earning a lot more than others. Again, if they've started earlier, the power of compounding interest is going to allow those outliers to bring up that average. But again, median balance right around $75,000. Super important in your 30s to try to stay consistent with your retirement savings. This is really the decade where a lot of us have kids, purchase homes, maybe start a business. So a lot of other things in life can kind of get in the way, but really urge you to try to stay consistent with your 401k savings. If you shut it off telling yourself that it'll be temporarily, before you know it, it could be a few years that have gone by that you've lost in potential returns. If you were starting at age 35 with that median balance, contributing that $7,500 a year, your potential balance at retirement age would be $2.1 million. Obviously, you can see a huge difference from starting in your 20s. So this, again, reinforces the fact that you should contribute as early as you can and not take your foot off the gas when life gets in the way. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful at all, let me know by subscribing to the channel. Like this video and share it with a friend if they could find it helpful as well. This is one of the more broad topics that I'm covering on the channel here. I usually go in more detail on tax planning, retirement planning, and things like that. So Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on those videos. As you enter your 40s, the average balance is $366,054 and the median is $159,072. So as you can see, that gap between the average and the median is only getting wider. In your 40s, you're approaching your peak earning years in most cases, so this is probably the most important time, I would say, to try to avoid lifestyle creep, which is where you're getting raises at work, you're getting bonuses, maybe promotions, and you naturally, want to spend more on a nicer house, a nicer car, dining out more, whatever it might be. But you slowly increase your spending, maybe without even knowing it over the long run. But that slowly takes away from what you can save for retirement. So these years, again, I would say are probably most important to kind of keep your spending in check if you can, put more towards retirement as you get those raises and those bonuses, and it'll definitely help you in the long run, as you can see here in just a moment. 40s is really when you want to try to start maxing out your 401k plan if you're not already. Now, by increasing the percentage that you're putting into your 401k as well, that also means that you're living off of less of your income, and as a result, it's less income that you need to replace in retirement. So again, super important to make sure that you're putting as much as you can into your 401k in your 40s. By the time you're full retirement age or 67, potential balance would be about $1.3 million based on that median of $159,000 today if you were 45. So again, the number here at retirement age is dropping off significantly. I'll say it again, start as early as you can, put as much as you can in, and you'll be set up for success in the long run. For those in their 50s, the average balance was $583,231. The median balance just over $255,000. In your 50s is when you can start doing catch-up contributions. If you are a little bit behind here, you're able to do another $7,500 per year into your 401k as of 2024. That catch-up contribution will probably increase a little bit each year. This is really when you want to start making sure that you're on pace for retiring when you want to. Like I mentioned, your 50s are your peak earning years for most people. This is when you're going to earn the most money out of your whole career. So really an important time to make sure that you're maxing out your 401k plan if possible, making sure that you're on track to retire within the next decade or so. At age 55, with that median balance of $255,000, if you continue to contribute until age 67, your potential balance would be $816,672. So ideally at this point, you'll be able to contribute a lot more than that $7,500 that we're using in our example. But this just goes to show that obviously the closer you are to retirement, the less time you have for compound interest to really be on your side. Your 60s, 70s, and 80s is really when you start to shift from the accumulation phase where you're building up that retirement nest egg to more preservation and distribution when you start to live off of that money for income. So you can see by the remaining numbers for each age group that it slowly starts to drop off as the average and the median as people start to withdraw money from their 401ks. So a couple thoughts on this data and this study. First and foremost is that this only considers 401k plans at Empower. It doesn't include other retirement assets people might have, including IRAs, even if they're at Empower. A lot of people will roll over money from their previous jobs' 401ks into an individual retirement account. So it also doesn't include balances in 401k plans at other companies like Fidelity or people who have multiple 401k plans. So again, this is just part of the big picture and certainly doesn't tell the full story for the average person's savings for retirement. For example, if you're a business owner and you recently sold your business for $1 million, virtually none of that would go into a 401k plan, so you may be better off with other assets outside of a 401k that can still support your retirement. Another thing that this study doesn't consider is the other side of the net worth equation, which is your liabilities or debt. So if you're feeling discouraged that you're behind the average person in your age group for 401k balance, but you have no debt, you may very well be well ahead of the game overall as it pertains to saving for retirement and being debt-free by the time you retire. So before we wrap up, couple tips for anyone who might feel that they are behind for their age group. Number one is start early and stay consistent. I know I said it multiple times already throughout this video, but the earlier you can start in a 401k plan, the better. You're really going to have time on your side as we showed through those examples. Compounding interest is really going to do most of the heavy lifting as you progress in your career and your investments start to do most of the work for you. Number two is always maximize the company match. That's basically free money. If your employer matches you up to 5% of your pay, you should at least be putting that in. So that really comes out to about 10% of your total pay that you're saving towards retirement. So never leave that money on the table. Even if you have any credit card debt that you need to pay down, you should still try to put that 5% in first and work on the credit card debt after that. Also, try to set your contributions to increase automatically over time. Most 401k providers allow you to set an automatic increase where it would go up, say, 1% each year automatically on a certain date. This is a great way to set it and forget it and, increase what you're saving for retirement, which is just going to have compound effects in the long run as well. And lastly, make it a point to regularly review and adjust your investments if necessary. Make sure that you're in an appropriate fund. For example, if you're in your 20s, you would not want to be in a stable value fund that's not invested in the stock market. So the longer your time horizon, generally the more you want to be in stock funds for that extra growth potential. But as you approach retirement, it may make sense to be in a more balanced portfolio with bonds to kind of preserve, again, what you have built up over your career. So as I said in the beginning, I usually don't suggest comparing yourself to others, especially not financially. But hopefully this shed a little bit of light on where you stack up compared to your peers when it comes to your 401k balances, and either gave you a boost of confidence to keep doing what you're doing, or maybe gave you a sign to start making some changes and take some action to get where you need to be. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and let me know by subscribing to the channel. Share this video with a friend if they could find it helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.